Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Finance. What trends are evident in the government's latest financial statements?
The Honourable Bill English.
Speaker, the financial statements for the year ending 30th of June 2010 show that the government is generally on track with its fiscal management. The fact that core Crown expenses were flat at $64 billion from one year to the next indicates we're getting on top of expenditure control. The residual cash deficit increased slightly from $8.6 billion to $9 billion for the year ended in June. This deficit is forecast to rise to $13.3 billion for the 2010-11 financial year.
David Bennett.
Supplementary question to the Minister of Finance. What trends in net Crown debt were highlighted in the government's latest annual accounts?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, net Crown debt is increasing as the government absorbs the shock of the recent recession on its own books, helping to protect New Zealanders from the sharp edges of that recession. Core Crown debt is now around $27 billion, or just over 14% of GDP. That debt will continue to rise because this year the government expects a cash deficit of around $13 billion. However, we can't keep running deficits or increasing debt forever, and that's why the government has a 5 or 6 year track to surplus involving tight control of government spending.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, can he tell hard-working Kiwis why he's borrowed an extra $750 million in the last 2 months to pay for his economic mismanagement?
The Honourable Bill English.
No, Mr Speaker. Fortunately, a lot of hard-working Kiwis understand just how much this government needs to do to correct the economic mismanagement of the previous government and to deal with the recession, and that's why the government's economic policies are broadly supported.
David Bennett.
Supplementary question to the Minister of Finance. What do the latest forecasts show about the likely path for the economy and the government's finances?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, the Treasurer is currently working on forecasts which will be published at the half-year update on the 14th of December. As I told the Finance and Expenditure Committee today, tax receipts for July and August were lower than forecast. I'm told the September tax receipts are up a bit, clawing back some of the difference. It's difficult to draw detailed conclusions from just 2 or 3 months' worth of data, but I would expect that in the half-year update, tax forecasts tax revenue will be a bit softer, and that may flow through to the rest of the government accounts.
David Bennett.
Supplementary question to the Minister of Finance. What positive signs is he seeing from the nature of the current economic recovery?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, many positive signs. As we've talked about in this House, this economy needs to rebalance away from excessive property speculation, excessive government spending and excessive personal consumption. And the early signs of that are promising. New Zealand private consumption is pretty much flat because New Zealanders are saving a good deal more than they were. While that has meant a more muted economic recovery in the short term, it's laying a stronger platform for sustainable economic recovery in the long term.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, why did he tell the Finance and Expenditure Committee today that there was, quote, no V-shaped recovery when the Prime Minister said it would be aggressive? And who's right? Himself and the Governor of the Reserve Bank, who think it's slow and fragile, or his boss, who he describes as floating from cloud to cloud?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, as we've gone over this issue about 10 times in the House and Select Committee, I'll explain it again. The Prime Minister made his comments in early 2009 and he was correct. The economy turned around from a 2.5% contraction to around a 2% growth rate. Like other developed economies, as New Zealand households have increased their savings dramatically, it has meant they've got less to spend, and that's why retailers and the construction industry are finding it tough.
Question number 2, Materia Tude.